Let's segue over to schools, because I did say I was going to talk about this, and we definitely should, because this story is hilarious.
Yeah, this is interesting.
I have to bring this story up because they drag Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson as alt-right, of course, the stupidest thing ever. And it is woke teachers. Look at this. The kids are alt-right. When your star pupil gets red-pilled from Mel Magazine, teachers know the warning signs when students are radicalized by online hate movements. They just don't know how to stop it or if it's a power struggle they can ever win. How creepy is it that these people literally view the Enlightenment as a hate movement? Because they specifically reference Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. Oh man, I got to read you this paragraph. They say, often it's hard for teachers to tell whether a student is being truly red-pilled in the sense that they're being radicalized online, or whether they're parroting views that they've grown up with in their conservative households.
Of course.
Tessa, a 29-year-old in the Midwest who teaches 14 to 18-year-olds at a private school for students with learning impairments, says that while many of her students simply take on the talking points and politics of their conservative parents, this can make them especially ripe targets for full-blown radicalization and infatuation with far-right figures. Quote, a few started listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, which led them to reading Jordan Peterson's books. She said, I think that Joe Rogan's ideology is the biggest threat to critical thinking in the last decade.
Stop.
I gotta
clap
for that one.
Seriously. I gotta say stop, because if you think Joe Rogan is far right, that should tell you exactly how far left you are, because something is wrong with you. And to say that he's the biggest threat to critical thinking, nah.
I love when the first time I went on Rogan, he goes, what do you think about universal basic income?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, not a big fan for these reasons. Like, yeah, but, and a bunch of people were like pushed me. And I'm like, Joe's almost a socialist.
Yeah.
Like he's
in no way right wing.
Culturally, I think he's like centrist. And then economically, he leans left.
I think he has common sense. And right now that makes him a little bit right wing.
It's because they're in a death cult. And anyone outside of the cult is literally Hitler.
That's a better summary.
Wait, it gets better. They say,
oh boy,
there are some obvious warning signs that a student is being red-pilled, though, like when they have a sudden and noticeable rightward shift in their views, when they specifically mention figures like Ben Shapiro and Peterson, who Olivia says her student loved, and when they use language that makes the online influence obvious, like Chad and cuck. Ah, brilliant. The word Chad and cuck. Yes, evidence that your child has been red-pilled. There's always been boys who ask, don't girls just lie about assault, though? And we do want to take those questions seriously. Ferderber says, but increasingly they're using language that sounds straight from Reddit. Reddit is super far left.
Do they know? Do any of these teachers know what they're talking about? Because it doesn't sound like they do. If they think Ben Shapiro is alt-right, they don't know the first thing about the alt-right,
right,
or the first thing about Ben Shapiro.
Well, I mean, as evidenced by everything they say, they clearly don't know anything and help us. They're teaching our children.
Yeah.
Well, not my kids. I don't have any kids.
This should be a huge red flag.
Homeschool your kids. There's a meme going around. It's funny. And it was like, if the left is calling this guy a Nazi and this woman a white supremacist, then they're trying to brainwash you. And it was Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens.
Yes.
It's like a Jewish guy who was the biggest target of, white supremacists and anti-Semites, according to the ADL. And a black woman.
Literal Orthodox Jew, tiny hat guy.
Yeah.
Yes. Not alt-right.
Tiny hat guy.
Not possible.
Oh, man. When teachers notice the warning signs of radicalization, difficult questions arise. Where is the line between shutting down these arguments and allowing kids to explore new ideas? And when is the right moment to intervene? Okay, look. If someone's listening to Jordan Peterson, I'm going to be like, cool. Yeah. Because he's a well-balanced guy. And, he's been out of the scene for a little bit. If someone's listening to Joe Rogan, I would say, good.
Yes.
Because Joe is a regular dude. But you can see how radicalized they are. That's the crazy thing. What this article really says is, are your kids being pulled from the cult? We saw that thread. It was a viral thread where a guy was complaining that parents now with virtual classrooms would start to learn about what they were teaching their kids.
That's terrifying.
And they're indoctrinating these kids with these ridiculously insane curriculums on racial justice and this cult dogma, and they don't want parents to find out. Parents should know exactly what the curriculum is. Parents should be given the syllabus with all of here's the plan for the month, here's the plan for the quarter.
Parents should be more involved than the teachers are. And I believe that 100%. And not just because I was homeschooled for most of my life. I honestly think, and I don't know if you guys noticed while he was reading this, but if you saw the ages of the teachers, I saw 34, I saw 29, and I saw 28.
Millennials.
Yes, it's always our fault.
What happened to millennials?
Dude.
I mean, Gen Z is a bit split. Mm-hmm. I guess everybody's a bit split. How weird is this? But you know what, man? I'll tell you, in 10 years, it's going to be, in 10 years from now, I'm going to be telling stories about how I used to be a liberal and a Democrat and all that stuff. And then these young people are going to view it as one day I changed my opinions and became a Republican. When in reality is my opinions stayed where they were. The Republican Party just a lot became the bigger tent.
Yeah.
The bigger, for more people focused on individual liberty, rights, social justice, and all these real social justice. And the left went insane.
I would compare it more to like being on a hill. The blob of the Republican Party rolled downhill a little bit and it took you in, and the left blob rolled way off down into the distance.
I'm confused by what your analogy is supposed to
mean. My
mean.
analogy makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I'm sorry you don't understand it. So the whole thing
like it's
shifted.
Like blanketing.
Yeah, it's like a teeter-totter almost.
I don't think the Republican Party has shifted.
No.
Yeah. So like I often talk about the wheel. How you've got far left and far right, and the wheel can turn one direction. I don't think the Republican Party did. I think the Republican Party became a bigger tent.
No, I've seen the right wing shift. I've seen a lot more. Maybe you're right, but I've seen it shift at least on topics like gay marriage, because there was I remember a point in my life where it went from being totally unacceptable to being this is the way it is now.
But that's not. I don't think that negates what I'm saying. When you make a bigger tent and you bring in a bunch of liberals, then what is the center of your party shifts a little bit to the left. It doesn't get rid of the people already on the right of your party. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people who don't believe in, gay marriage.
That's true.
And LGBTQ rights and stuff like that.
Maybe I'm just talking about my own family and my microcosm.
They've shifted?
They changed.
I think it's fair, though. I've mentioned in the past that Donald Trump is a Republican, and he's the first president in U.S. history to be pro-gay marriage before going into office.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not entirely sure about this. I know Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage in his first campaign.
Before he was for it, yeah.
But I think he was opposed to it in his second run, wasn't he?
Re-election? The first, I think.
The first one? Not the second one?
The first part of his second.
So he ran twice opposed to gay marriage.
I think so.
I'm not going to blame Obama for that because,
that's his view.
Well, society changes. Of course, now. That's why I think it's silly when, was it Rick Reynolds, is that his name? He put out that ad where he said, Joe Biden multiple times came out against gay marriage. Now, I can respect that. I get his point because Donald Trump entered and he doesn't have that on, in his history. But come on, look, Joe Biden's
changed.
Yeah, times have changed. He's gotten with the program. He's changed his opinion. I'm more concerned about what he's doing now and his character now. I can respect, Grinnell's opinion for sure. He knows better than I do because he is a gay man. But I look at what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris represent now. I'm concerned about the now, not the yesterday.
Exactly.
However, I look at Joe Biden's wishy-washiness, his waffling, and what the Obama administration did, and that does matter because they do have a history, and that's important. Perhaps you could say that Donald Trump doesn't, because he doesn't have that history, it's harder to criticize him. It's his first time running for office, and he became president.
Right.
Yeah, that was a really funny thing.
That's
when
amazing.
He brought it up. I ran for president one time, or I ran for public office one time, and became president of the United States. It's funny. So he has that advantage. But I look at the Biden administration and the things they did, and that's why I'm like, nah, none of that.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that.
The Biden-Obama administration.
The Biden-Obama. Let me read out the last paragraph because I mentioned the Proud Boys. I think it's funny. They say, it can also be devastating for teachers to realize that, despite their best efforts, some of their students might end up holding hateful beliefs long term, and many of them take it personally. Quote, "My biggest worry is that they'll be stuck in their thinking forever and that they'll join the Proud Boys or something," Tessa says. "I feel like I should be able to do a better job at teaching critical thinking skills, and they should have enough trust in me to believe that I'm telling the truth. Honestly," she adds, "it makes me feel like I've failed at my job." Well, you failed at your job for a lot of reasons. I'll tell you what, if I had to choose, if there was a little kid in front of me and they were like, you could say one thing, just one word, or you have two choices. He either grows up to become a Proud Boy or he grows up to become Antifa. and you have to choose. I'd rather that kid be Proud Boy.
100%.
Because the worst thing about the Proud Boys is that they may be rambunctious and aggressive, but they don't start fights for the most part. It's like I mentioned this, several times now. It's inverse proportions. Antifa almost exclusively starts the fights. Proud Boys tend to finish them when the fights start, but Proud Boys have started some fights. For the most part, if you leave them to their business, they walk around waving American flags and then go get drunk at a bar. That's totally fine. I don't care. Antifa instigates and gets violent and goes and targets people, and that is not acceptable.
The entire basis of the Proud Boys is kind of unserious. It's a bunch of hazing. It's a bunch of gross, dirty, immature jokes. It wasn't meant to be anything crazy.
How weird is it now that people have like tattoos and they take it seriously?
That's funny to me. To me, it's like the embodiment almost of a sense of humor. Whereas with Antifa, it's just dark. It's depressing. Like I don't understand why anyone would want to be part of that, because it's not exciting. It's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not like enjoyable.
Well, these teachers are worried that these children may listen to Jordan Peterson and then become Proud Boys.
That's pretty scary. Okay. Yeah, I sympathize.
They may learn how to clean their rooms. The worst thing you have to worry about is they'll start talking about lobsters and cleaning their room and carrying heavy things. I am not worried about people. Actually, I've said it before. I think Jordan Peterson's self-help ideology and things like that were an antidote to chaos. I mean, that was quite literally the point of his book.
That's what he set out to do.
I look at it like this. I have a video on my main channel where I talk about this. I think our generation and the younger generations have no purpose, and that's creating two kind of like pockets. The people who are attracted to Jordan Peterson's message are looking for purpose, and he says, be responsible, find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it. You have to do it. And so people learn to become responsible for themselves. The other faction who hate him found a fake way to fill that void in their soul, purpose and meaning, and it's intersectionality. So he's actually giving people meaning and purpose, and it's harming their cult. Naturally, they hate him.
That makes sense. So I think when you tell somebody to treat yourself like someone you are responsible for, I think that if someone isn't that deep? Because to me, that's really deep. Because if you have someone that you really care about, you're not going to let them put themselves down. You're not going to let them be loose or sloppy or crazy or silly or overly emotional. You're going to help them be disciplined. You're going to help them see themselves in the correct light. You're going to guide them. You're going to really care about what happens to them.
But it's you.
Right.
That's interesting. That's a good way to put it.
I love that. And I think Antifa would be so much better off if you floated them that idea and you didn't tell them who it was from. I wonder how many of them would actually think about that.
I think they're unwell. They don't take responsibility for themselves. They want things to be provided for them, and that is just it's unacceptable in my opinion.
Yeah. They
take it too far.
I don't want to think it's too late. I would like to think that there are leftists who thinks that some memes are funny, and I would like to think that there are some Antifa members who would consider treating themselves like something responsible.
It's just like I said, though, it's inverse proportions, right? Yeah. So on the left, you do have some honest personalities, and many of them. I'm not going to pretend like it's only screeching banshees or whatever. No, there's a bunch of good people on the left, but I think there's too many bad ones.
Yeah.
There are many bad ones on the right, but there are many good ones.
To me, it seems easier to be a person of character on the left and get more respect for it, at least from the right or from people generally, because they're like four-leaf clovers. They're not everywhere. They're kind of special. Yeah. It's a little bit like finding a unicorn in the wild. It's like, I need to respect this person.
Jimmy Dore, man.
Yeah, like a lot of those left-wing people, I'm like, I have huge respect for you.
Jimmy is awesome. Yeah. Jimmy Dore is awesome, and I disagree with him on a lot of things.
Right, I don't care if we disagree on stuff.
But he's honest. Yeah. I think he gets some things wrong, and same thing with Kyle Kalinske and David Pakman. But I think they're, for the most part, I think these are good dudes. Not perfect, but I think Jimmy Dore is great. He recently went on Tucker Carlson, and he said the Democratic Party is a pro-war party, and and they're laughing about it, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yep.
It's Jimmy and Tucker laughing, and Tucker was like, I appreciate you doing this, considering the flack you're going to get, and Jimmy was like, it was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.